Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370's disappearance remains one of aviation's greatest mysteries.
For 11 years, the world had no answers about what happened to MH370. Families were left with empty chairs and endless questions. Now, a single discovery has changed everything. What scientists found hidden inside the wreckage is shaking experts and reopening mysteries many thought was closed forever. Join us as we uncover the details of this shocking discovery. The sudden disappearance of MH370.
Malaysian 370.
Malaysian 370, Lampu radar, good morning. Climb flight level 250.
Morning, level 250, Malaysian 370.
The usual 6-hour flight became a confusing mystery in modern aviation. Pilot Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, an experienced pilot with 18,360 flight hours, was in charge of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370. He was known for his dedication to aviation and often shared his passion with others. First Officer Fariq Abdul Hamid, who was 27 years old and had 2,763 flying hours, was seated next to him. This trip was supposed to be a learning experience for Fariq. Unfortunately, it turned out to be his last.
The Malaysian Airlines Boeing 777 took off from Kuala Lumpur on the 8th of March 2014 at 12:41 local time.
The plane took off smoothly from runway 32R and climbed into the dark sky. As it reached an altitude of 35,000 feet, everything seemed normal. The plane followed standard procedure by contacting Kuala Lumpur Air Traffic Control before being transferred to the control center in Ho Chi Minh City. The last communication was Captain Zahari saying good night on the radio.
Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Which would later become a mystery in aviation. Right after the final message was sent, the plane's communication addressing and reporting system, CRS, which is crucial for communication between the aircraft and ground control, lost connection. This was not a minor technical problem. It was like the lights suddenly going out in a crowded theater, creating a sense of suspense for everyone. What might have led someone to purposely turn off the CARS system? And the surprising events didn't end there. As air traffic controllers tried to understand what was happening, they discovered that the transponder on the plane, which helps identify and track it, was not working. This made it extremely difficult to locate MH370 as it flew through the sky without a clear position or direction. In a race against time, aviation experts and air traffic controllers scrambled to find any information that could explain what was going on. However, instead of getting clearer, the mystery just kept getting more confusing as time passed. This wasn't a normal case of a plane disappearing from radar. It was a terrifying situation, unfolding in real time, with each new detail scarier than the last. Things got even creepier when another pilot tried to contact MH370, but only heard strange, unclear noises in response. These unidentifiable sounds created a chilling atmosphere and made the fear even more intense. The plane appeared to be too far away to communicate, with only static and uncertainties remaining. Later, the Malaysian military radar picked up the plane in the Andaman Sea before losing track of it completely. MH370 vanished suddenly, leaving air traffic controllers and military personnel stunned. After a prolonged effort to establish contact, it was found that the plane had entered Vietnamese airspace, but then suddenly changed direction. MH370 strayed from its intended path and began moving unpredictably over the Malaya Peninsula before heading northwest toward the Strait of Malacca. Why did this happen? Was it due to a malfunction, intentional action, or something else entirely? Nobody knew. The lack of clear information heightened the sense of unease. The sudden shifts in direction shocked Malaysia Airlines, air traffic control, and search teams, all of whom were urgently looking for answers. As time went by and things got quieter, the search for the missing plane intensified. focusing on the South China Sea and Gulf of Thailand, where the plane was last seen. Despite thorough search efforts, no signs of MH370 were found, creating more questions. Hope was now based on witness accounts and occasional updates. A fisherman mentioned seeing a plane flying very low, which stuck with him due to its unusualness. Concurrently, an oil rig worker reported seeing something burning in the sky. Could these reports result in a big breakthrough? More accounts were just making things more confusing instead of clear. Each piece of information seemed to make things more complicated. Rather than solving anything, each clue was making it harder to understand the disappearance of Flight MH370. Over time, the mystery only got deeper, leaving experts, family members, and the world puzzled and searching for answers in a seemingly endless abyss. So after the news of its disappearance went round, what did the government and the people do? Let's dive into the efforts made in locating the plane's final destination. The deep and endless search for MH370. The Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 case became even more puzzling with the emergence of new testimonies, making the situation even more complex. Indonesian fishermen saw an object falling from the sky, and months later, a British woman claimed to have seen a plane on fire in the Indian Ocean while sailing. These disturbing reports added to the uncertainty and painted a haunting picture of that night. The details provided by these witnesses vary, hinting at something extraordinary and tragic. What could it be?
More than a decade, one of aviation's greatest mysteries could soon be solved, with a new search commencing for MH370 off the coast of WA.
Over time, the investigation became more disturbing. Satellite data suggested that MH370 may have stayed in the air for a few hours after disappearing from radar. The aircraft appeared to be sending mysterious signals to the world. Inmarsat, a British satellite company, provided a crucial breakthrough in the investigation, giving hope to the international team trying to solve this perplexing mystery. What did they discover? And could it possibly uncover the mystery of MH370? Inmarsat revealed that the aircraft had been transmitting weak signals, called pings, to one of its satellites for 7 hours after it went missing. Despite their faintness, these signals helped investigators track the probable route of the plane by using burst timing offset, a complex method. By employing this method, experts were able to calculate the distance between MH370 and the satellite, creating a potential map of its final flight path. The situation got even more puzzling when data from the satellite showed that MH370 was flying on autopilot at around 30,000 feet for a long time before crashing into the Indian Ocean. The reasons for the plane being on autopilot and what caused it to descend remain unknown. These unanswered questions added to the confusion surrounding the situation. The information showed two ways the missing plane could have gone. One route went north through Southeast Asia and near Kazakhstan in Central Asia. The other path went south into the isolated southern Indian Ocean. The northern route was quickly dismissed because countries like Thailand and Kazakhstan along the way have advanced radar that would have likely spotted the plane. With the north route ruled out, attention turned to the vast uninhabited waters of the southern path, an area so remote and deep that searching there seemed almost impossible. The search began, focusing on the southern Indian Ocean. There were different search sectors, one in the Indian Ocean and the other in Southeast Asia, China, and the Indian subcontinent. The task was daunting, as each area covered vast and difficult terrain. People wondered if any of these paths would lead to answers. On March 24, 2014, the Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak announced some very sad news. Experts looking at the satellite data believe that Flight MH370 most likely went down in the very remote southern Indian Ocean. There's nowhere safe for the plane to land in that vast area. No islands or places to stop.
Searching in the ocean, crashing on dry land, or even landing safely? The closest island to the possible path is here, Palau Perak.
This announcement was not very hopeful, suggesting that the plane and all 239 people on board may have tragically crashed into the deep, dark water. The sad finding was followed by a realization that at that time, the disappearance of MH370 was the deadliest incident involving a Boeing 777, holding that grim record for 131 days. But fate had a cruel twist in store. On July 17, 2014, another Malaysia Airlines plane, Flight MH370, a Boeing 777-200ER, was fired down, leading to the deaths of 298 people. Two Malaysian Airlines airplanes vanished in a short period. Both were Boeing 777s. The mysterious disappearance of Flight MH370 continued to puzzle people despite the ongoing tragedy. New evidence only fueled more questions and speculations about what really happened that night. Experts' findings versus people's opinions. After Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 went missing, investigators worked hard to find out what happened. Each part of the investigation gave some solid answers, but also made people come up with more theories. Because there wasn't much evidence, lots of different ideas spread quickly, some believable and some far-fetched. In our report, we look at the findings of the thorough investigation and explore the various theories that caught the public's attention, from sensible explanations to more creative guesses. The investigation first focused on the passengers of Flight MH370. Authorities carefully examined each person for any ties to terrorism, checking their personal backgrounds, connections, and criminal records. However, after finding no links to extremist groups or suspicious behavior, officials ruled out terrorism as a factor. One passenger with an engineering background and knowledge of aircraft mechanics briefly raised suspicions, but further investigation showed that the clue was not significant. After ruling out terrorism, theories began to focus on other possible explanations for the plane's mysterious disappearance. One theory that gained attention was the possibility that Russian operatives hijacked the plane and caused it to crash in Kazakhstan, possibly as a diversion from the Crimean conflict. This theory suggested that the vanishing of MH370 was a deliberate plan to distract from political issues in Eastern Europe. However, it was considered unlikely because of a lack of evidence. The airspace near Kazakhstan, like most of the world, is closely monitored by radar to prevent unauthorized planes from entering. There was also a theory that struck an emotional chord, involving reports of passengers' cell phones ringing after the disappearance. Families clung to a glimmer of hope when they heard ringing phones, believing it could signal their loved ones and possibly the plane had somehow made it through. However, experts in telecommunications explained that a ringing phone doesn't always mean the call has gone through. When someone calls a mobile phone, the network attempts to locate the device. If the call fails, the phone may continue to ring before eventually ending the call. While the explanation about how phone ringing works was helpful, it didn't ease the family's pain and confusion, as they were still seeking answers. It was believed that MH370 had entered a restricted military zone in the Indian Ocean that is closely monitored by countries like the United States and China. Some people think there may have been a military accident where the plane was fired down by mistake. The speculation was fueled by reports of military drills in the area on the night MH370 disappeared. However, this theory is still not proven and awaits confirmation from military authorities in the region. No country has admitted to stopping or making contact with the plane, but some people who support this idea think that if it did happen, the information would be kept secret. Another theory came from a video that was posted on Reddit, showing a plane surrounded by glowing orbs before disappearing suddenly in a flash of light. The eerie images in the video sparked a lot of speculation, with some people believing that MH370 may have come across something supernatural. Many people believed the video showed an alien abduction because of the strange orbs and sudden disappearance. The internet was filled with theories about UFO sightings, making the disappearance even more mysterious. Some aviation experts noted similarities between the plane in the video and MH370, leading to more speculation. However, most experts and skeptics dismissed the video as fake, saying there was no solid evidence to prove alien involvement. The investigation into the disappearance of Flight MH370 looked into the backgrounds, relationships, and behavior of the pilots, Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah and co-pilot Fariq Abdul Hamid, before the plane took off. Captain Zahari, who was an experienced pilot, lived in a quiet neighborhood and had a stable lifestyle. However, things took a serious turn when investigators discovered a private flight simulator at his home that had a flight path similar to the one suspected for the missing flight over the Indian Ocean, raising suspicions. This discovery led to more research into Zahari's mental health and personal life. It was found that his marriage was facing problems, possibly causing him emotional stress. Zahari's connections to politics raised questions, especially because his family member, Anwar Ibrahim, had recently been found guilty of a crime, making the situation more complicated. However, Zahari's family and friends insisted that he was not feeling hopeless and would never purposefully put his passengers in danger. The authorities also looked at the role of co-pilot Fariq Abdul Hamid. Although he had a good career and reputation, his actions came into question when he tried to make a call while the plane was flying low over Penang, Malaysia. People wondered who he was trying to call and why. However, investigators found no evidence linking either pilot to any intentional sabotage or harm. Malaysia's official statement agreed that the plane may have crashed in the Indian Ocean, but some experts believe a mechanical problem could have caused the disaster. They think a combination of technical problems and errors made by the pilot could have caused the plane to go off course and crash into the sea. While mechanical issues were a potential cause, aviation experts were puzzled by the lack of communication during the incident. Even though pilots are trained to deal with equipment problems and request help in emergencies, it is unusual that there was no radio communication from MH370. The discovery of scattered debris from the plane in various locations, like Reunion Island and Mozambique, confirmed that the plane crashed into the ocean. However, there were many unanswered questions due to the small amount of wreckage that was found in various locations. Scientists studied pieces of the wing, especially the flaperon, to figure out how the plane may have hit the water. Specialists suggested that the way the wing was damaged indicated a sudden drop rather than a gradual descent, implying a fast and forceful impact with the sea. These conclusions backed up the idea of a crash happening, but the lack of evidence made it difficult to fully understand what led to the tragedy. Although Malaysia announced that MH370 had crashed in the Indian Ocean, the limited information has led to many different theories. Each theory offers a possible explanation, but none have been confirmed. The mystery surrounding the incident has kept people searching for answers. As technology improves and deep-sea exploration continues, we may eventually find the answers that families, experts, and the world are looking for. The disappearance of Flight MH370 is still one of the most mysterious events in aviation history. Different official statements and continued interest from the public have made it an enduring issue. But amidst all these back and forth, who was the individual who took matters in his own hands? The man who wouldn't let MH370 be forgotten. Most people eventually moved forward. Some moved on because they had to get back to their daily lives, while others did so because they were informed that there was nothing more they could do. Reports were written, memorials were set up, and the world shifted its attention to different issues. However, there was one man who couldn't move on. His name was Blaine Gibson, and he didn't know anyone on the missing flight MH370. He didn't receive any money from governments or organizations, and he wasn't officially responsible for the passengers who disappeared. Blaine Gibson was curious about how a Boeing 777 could disappear in a time when we have advanced technology like satellites. Families were left without answers, and he couldn't stop thinking about it. Gibson, a former lawyer who enjoyed traveling and solving puzzles, took it upon himself to investigate the mystery when the official search stopped. He collected maps and studied drift patterns, feeling a personal duty to find out what happened. Traveling to remote areas where the Indian Ocean meets peaceful shores, Gibson delved into the case that had been forgotten by the world. He traveled to remote beaches in Madagascar and Mozambique, where even GPS seemed like a luxury. In those untouched sandy shores, Gibson discovered treasures washed up by the ocean, unnoticed by the busy world. The ocean, in its own silent way, remembered and gave back fragments to those who still took the time to search. Gibson was no longer by himself in his search when Richard Godfrey, an aerospace engineer from Britain who knew a lot about aviation systems, joined him. Godfrey used data analysis and satellite technology to solve the mystery, while Gibson was persistent and willing to explore the lonely shores. Together, they worked as a team to find hidden patterns and solve the mystery. Their work, which was initially overlooked, started to gain recognition. Godfrey came up with a new technique using radio waves to analyze WSPR data, which could be used to follow the course of MH370. By examining interruptions in radio signals, Godfrey was able to follow the plane's route. His unusual discoveries were consistent with Gibson's debris findings, showing the direction of the ocean currents and providing more support to the search efforts. Official authorities did not respond to them. Some people quietly kept track of their progress, while others completely ignored it. However, Gibson persisted by walking along beaches and collecting fragments from fishermen who discovered them in nets or washed up after storms. Each fragment was carefully documented, photographed, and analyzed. Some pieces were identified as parts of a Boeing 777, while others were believed to be from the same aircraft, leading to new questions that were not addressed by official voices. Then a unique piece was discovered in Madagascar. It was a heavy and twisted object with strange holes and signs of damage. Gibson recorded the findings and sent it to specialists. Godfrey determined that it was a trunnion door, part of the landing gear for planes during takeoff and landing. The most significant aspect was the damage on the piece, which hinted at a troubling story. Unlike other fragments that showed external damage or erosion from the ocean, this piece had holes that appeared to come from the inside out. The metal showed signs of a powerful force from inside the aircraft that caused it to break and burst during the last moments of the flight. Some experts thought pieces from the engine breaking apart hit the plane from the inside. Others believed the landing gear could have been purposely lowered during a quick descent to make sure the plane would not survive the crash. This new information altered the story. Pilots are instructed to keep the landing gear up when making a water landing to lessen the chances of the plane breaking apart. Lowering it would almost certainly result in destruction. This would not be an accident. It would be sabotage. Gibson and Godfrey had more than just random pieces of debris. They had a possible reason for the incident, though it was not confirmed but strongly hinted at. The lack of information from authorities seemed less credible as the wreckage revealed clues, with its damage telling a story that was still developing. The focus shifted from just the metal and passengers who were missing. it became about the events that occurred on the plane, decisions that were made by people. The object, worn down by the sun and salt, appeared to be just another damaged piece at first. However, when a fisherman in Madagascar examined it, he unknowingly unearthed a revelation not seen for 11 years. Godfrey, upon analyzing its shape and features, discovered the truth. It was not a part of a cabin or wing, but a door, penetrated from the inside, holding evidence that the last moments of MH370 were not as previously believed. 11 years later, a shocking discovery made the world stop and take notice. The damage on the plane did not look like typical crash damage. It indicated that there was some kind of violent event happening inside the aircraft as it was coming down. The evidence of impact and damage suggested that the engine had broken apart during a rapid descent, causing debris to hit the landing gear door from the inside. This discovery was troubling on its own, but the real significance came from aviation procedures. Pilots preparing for a water landing would not normally put down the landing gear, as it would break upon impact and could lead to the plane breaking apart. This damage was deliberate, not accidental. It was a decision made by someone on the aircraft who knew the consequences. This was not just a random accident, it was proof of a deliberate action. Godfrey and Gibson surprised the aviation industry with their report. The report explained that the landing gear door was hit from the inside during a high-speed crash, causing the aircraft to not land gently in the ocean. The plane didn't try to land softly or quietly. It went down forcefully, and it wasn't an accident. More proof started to show up after that. Satellite photos and thermal images from previous search operations were found again, showing not open waters, but a thick, unmapped jungle. The images displayed signs of a disturbance, with flattened vegetation, areas of bare ground, and a faint but distinct shadow resembling a large aircraft. This shadow was concealed beneath the trees, partially buried in the ground and obscured by the passage of time. Experts looked at this area and found similarities with the path predicted by Gibson. The similarity was very clear. Even though the images were not very clear, along with the specific damage to the trunnion door, they indicated that MH370 did not just crash into the ocean. It could have intentionally been taken to a location where no one was looking. Godfrey came to a decisive conclusion. He believed that the missing plane was more than just an accident. It was meant to convey a message. The exact meaning of this message was unknown, whether it was meant as revenge, defiance, or something else. The evidence of the lowered landing gear, internal damage, and strange flight path suggested that the plane's disappearance was intentional and meant to completely erase all traces of it. After 11 years, the story of MH370 changed from a mystery to a disturbing find. The broken pieces of the plane, previously part of a functioning aircraft, now damaged and aged, revealed the difficult journey they had been on. The fragments shared the true events that took place, slowly being found on deserted beaches, in the possession of fishermen, and in the determined efforts of two men who refused to quit. So, what is the final conclusion of all these? The new clues of MH370. MH370 was a puzzling mystery for a long time. The disappearance of the plane left a lot of unanswered questions for families. It seemed like the plane just disappeared without a trace, leaving everyone wondering. However, now there are finally some answers. Instead of being spoken, the silence has been broken by pieces of metal from the plane that have been found in the ocean. Each piece carries a story of its own. These damaged and pierced remnants are now revealing a story through their scars and tears. Every mark on the metal gives a hint of what occurred during the last moments of the flight. Richard Godfrey and Blaine Gibson have uncovered these fragments, altering the narrative. What was previously considered a tragic accident now appears to have been something different. One particular fragment that stands out is a trunnion door. thought to be a section of the plane's landing gear. This piece is not just another piece of debris. It is significant evidence, showing damage from the inside out, which has surprised even seasoned investigators. The damage does not indicate a gentle landing in water. Instead, it suggests a powerful, fast, and forceful impact, indicating a final moment that was abrupt and intentional. Godfrey and Gibson's discoveries have surprised people who had given up hope of finding answers. Families who were kept in the dark are now calling for a new investigation to be conducted. Aviation experts who dismissed the idea of foul play are now reconsidering, examining the clues with a new perspective. Even news organizations that previously overlooked the search efforts are now taking notice, understanding the significance of the information these fragments are uncovering. This finding has captured people's attention, leading to more questions being raised. If MH370 was intentionally brought down, what was the motive behind it? Why was it taken to a secluded area? Was it the decision of a distressed individual pilot? Or was there a larger scheme involved? Was it a message that went unnoticed or a hidden cover-up? Each possibility is gaining momentum, but now there is tangible evidence to support it. For a while, people were okay with not knowing what happened. Some thought it was a mistake by someone, while others thought it was a problem with the equipment. But now, with this new proof, it's clear that it wasn't just an unfortunate mistake. The truth is slowly coming to light as more pieces are discovered on remote beaches, and new videos help put the pieces together. The tale of MH370 is ongoing and evolving as new discoveries provide clues about what occurred. The debris from the wreckage, exposed to the elements, is not just random objects, but a means of communication for those who are open to understanding its message. Some pieces of the wreckage eventually resurface, revealing more about the truth behind the tragic event. After 11 years, these pieces have started to make noise. They tell their stories through their scars, and people are starting to take notice. If just one piece of torn metal can impact the entire MH370 story, there could be more discoveries waiting to be found underwater or in unexpected places. The hunt for the truth is ongoing, guided by the silent messages of the metal that the ocean couldn't hide. What do you think about these discoveries? Do you think more clues will come out later? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.